Since tonight's not a scheduled talk, doesn't matter when I start or when I stop. So we can ignore time and space a little bit. Now, amongst those that are here, did anybody notice the new thing coming into their life this week? I know that Roja had something very big come into her life this week, and she hasn't actually noticed it yet. I felt it happen. Gimli had something big come into his life, but he hasn't yet reached down to take it. So unless he notices, it will just go away. You? I. Well, when we're kids, small kids, our parents say, sit down and eat your dinner. Go to bed right now. Stop making so much noise. Eat everything on your plate. And see, life is rarely that clear. Unless you have an incredibly strong calling. If there's something in you that calls so strong and clear and bright that nothing will stop it, then life will come along and give you a kick in the butt and force you into where you need to be. But for most of us, that's not true. And so if you're not paying attention, if you're not watching, someone may come up and ask you out for a cup of coffee. Someone may hand you something. Someone may give you a new perspective. But if you're not watching and don't grab it, it goes away. One of the first things that Elfpath teaches is awareness, paying attention. And it's not just for Elfpath. Life brings you amazing things on a regular basis. But if you don't have the awareness to notice and grab them with both hands, they'll often just bounce off and somebody sitting nearby will get them. So for those of you who haven't been paying enough attention, I encourage you to watch. New things will keep coming to you as life changes. And when you sense one, even if you're not sure, reach out and grab it with both hands and say, mine! Like the kittens do when they're fighting. Mine! And grab it and hold on to it and see what's there for you. Probably most of you are tired. Probably most of you have experienced that the last week, week and a half, 2 weeks have been difficult. That stuff you thought you'd gotten through has come up and bit you in the backside. That emotions or dramas you thought you were done with have come up again and again and again. And this is good news. I know it seems like bad news, but this is actually good news. If the energies increase, then more energy moves through you. And when more energy flows through, it's like electricity flowing through a circuit. Any place there's resistance is going to get hot. With more energy flowing through your life, you expect any place where there's still little bits of resistance inside to heat up when that greater amount of energy moves. And so if everybody had a nice, smooth, easy, comfortable week, it would have been pretty clear evidence that I was wrong. That these new energies weren't moving through and in spades, in increasing amounts. So, take a moment and celebrate right now that life wasn't smooth and easy this past week. Because that means it was right. That means lots of new energies were moving. And this is how we're going to change the world. Will one of you turn off that machine making all the noise? One of our number was here this week and said, I don't think I'm big enough, I'm not smart enough, I don't understand how to change the whole world. It's too big for me. And if any of you think that you need to change the whole world, you're doing something wrong. I'll repeat what I told him and the people who were here. That your job isn't to change the world, it's to change yourself. And this isn't some rehashing of old self-help type books. In this, I'm very serious. Your job, every one of you, is to find your hearts. And having found it, to live in it. To live in it and make it your home. Until when you look in the mirror, you find that you can truly love. Not just appreciate or be grateful for, but truly love the person looking back at you. And in time, as you make your heart your home address, this energy center right here, as you live here more and more, you'll find that this is your first response to everyone and everything. Somebody smiles or wishes you a good day. Somebody yells or flips you off or cuts you off in traffic. It doesn't matter. Your first response is love and compassion. And maybe to some of you that seems trivial, and maybe some people think that's impossible. But it's not. And it's not a thing you practice. You don't walk around trying to love grumpy people. Doesn't work. Not at the start. You don't walk around trying to feel grateful for someone who cuts you off in traffic or steals a parking space or pushes your bike off the road. It's simpler than that. You find this energy center in your heart, right here. You clear out the messiness in your guts. That's the first 3 belts of Elfpath, is clearing out all this messy stuff. Until you're bringing energy up here. And when you do, you start making this your home address, where you live. And you just hold that energy there a little bit every day. You just hold this energy here. More and more you hold that energy here. And when you do, it's like taking a seed and planting it and watering it. You don't have to force the seed to grow. You put the pot someplace where sunlight can get to it. You water it every day. And pretty soon a small plant grows, and it grows larger and it grows healthier. Maybe some of you are no good with plants and you kill them. Maybe some of you are great with plants. Fortunately, this is easier. This is a plant of sorts that doesn't take a green thumb. It just takes bringing in a little energy every day. Right here, letting it grow. Now, I'm willing to bet that most of you have loved somebody in your lifetime. Probably many of you have been in relationships. And if you've loved somebody, if you've cared about them, and this has been online even a tiny bit, and they broke your heart, or they were mean, or they died, or they left, or they moved away, or they started dating someone else, there's going to be pain here around the heart. And it's a little bit like what Roha calls gut muck down here in the guts. When you start bringing energy in here, little every day, the heart starts to grow. And the painful places around it are still there. So as this starts to grow and expand, it's going to start bumping into all these places around it that are hurt. And so past anger, past fear, deep sadness, frustration, hopelessness, bitterness, these things that may have come from trying to love somebody in the past, these will come back to you. That's okay. It doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. It means that your heart's growing. This energy center is getting bigger and healthier. And so when they happen, when you bring in that energy and expand it and you feel deep sadness or bitterness and frustration, loneliness, boredom, anger, fear, you treat it a lot like you would gut muck. You find that spot, you feel it, you breathe, you ground, you let it go. And in time, these things will go too. This isn't like some bubble that keeps swelling up with trouble and you've got to leak it out, bleed it out a little every day. It's more like a little something stuck inside. And as you feel it, and as you breathe, as you ground and let it go, it actually goes until there's less of it there. A sadness which seems bigger than you are will eventually go. Fear that leads to anger over and over will eventually go. Not by some funky magic or waving your hands a certain way or saying a spell, but simply by feeling it and breathing and being aware and letting it go. And if you hit things that are too big for you, you go to your teachers and say, hey, this one's too big for me. Then you ask for help. That's why we have teachers. They help us through this. And in time, this area around the heart will be clear, and you can just breathe in and make your heart big and shiny. And anybody who's aware will see it, and the people around you will relax a little more than they have before, and your life will get a little smoother. And when you look in the mirror, you'll love what you see there. And when you talk to your pets, your parents, your friends, your children, you're going to find that whereas before they annoyed you, now you're just going to feel a compassion for them. A love that isn't the kind of thing you find on Valentine's Day cards. It's something deep and intense and real. And when you feel it, you just smile and it's okay. Because you really do care about them. Because this thing and the energies that come from it are real. And this is your assignment. Not changing the world, not saving the world, not starting groups and protesting. But bringing this online and making it grow. And when you do, you're going to find people are hurting. And you won't have to think, oh, I'm scared to talk to people. You're going to say that person's hurting. And you're going to, what's wrong? Can I help? And you're going to help them. And you're going to find people with new ideas. And you're going to say, yes, but. And you're going to tell them something from the heart. And they'll say, that makes sense. I'm going to change my new idea and work in a slightly different direction. And in this way, it doesn't take saving the world or figuring out the big picture or really getting it all. It's enough to find the music that's being played here and begin to dance to it. And when you do, increasingly, as we all are dancing to the music here, we'll all be dancing to music that works together. And it won't be bumping into one another on the dance floor. This is your task, your assignment. So if you feel overwhelmed, unsure how to proceed, any of that, it's that simple. Keep watering that plant and let it grow. When you find messy stuff, feel it, breathe, ground, let it go. And let your heart grow stronger and healthier. Beyond that, whatever your teachers might assign to you, exercises for greater awareness or exercises for getting the body in better shape. But this is the one that matters. This is what's going to change the world. And as you bring up that healthy heart energy and radiate it to the world around you, the people around you are going to change. They're going to feel it change whether they want to or not. And they're going to say, that's so amazing, I want to be like that. And you're going to start showing them how to bring that little energy into their hearts. And the little ones, the children, will get it very quickly, and they'll start bringing the energy up into their heart. And in just a very small number of years, this is something that can be worldwide. The ones who don't have energy coming to their hearts. And we'll, give them special stickers and special parking places because they're so dramatically handicapped. They can't hear the music the rest of us do. They go through life bitter, angry, lost, frustrated, and they can't understand why everybody else is happy. And that time is not so far away. And the path to it is very simple. It's about holding the heart. That's all. Finding this heart center and holding it. That said, Let's talk briefly about making things happen. There was a movie called The Secret. And lots of people were excited about this movie when it came out because it said if you just imagine it, you start getting checks in the mail and live in the nicest house in town and get the best job and the best relationship and so on. And people weren't excited about it for very long because most of the time it didn't work. Some people could never get it to work. Other people, in small things, they had a success. They got the secret to work for them. But in the things that mattered, they didn't. I feel the basic idea of the movie's right. That we can make things happen. We can call into our life exactly what we want. The book Illusions, a book that I've read many times and feel very highly of, says that if you can be yourself, strong and clear and bright, just run enough energy through that self, you're like a magnet, like an electromagnet. The more energy you run, the more you draw in exactly what you seek. And the more the things that aren't right for me just sort of drift away. A Taoist philosopher in China said, we all get exactly what we ask for, eventually. And the only difference between the master, the guru, the special person, and the normal folk is that the master keeps asking for the same thing, over and over and over. There are a lot of sources like this that say, if you want something, if you look for it strongly enough, you can find it. So why doesn't it work? The secret. I want to give you a few reasons. And I give you these not as interesting things to write in your notebook or type up in your notepad, but as things I want you to play with and try. Imagine you decide that you want to be a professional dancer. Why? I don't know. It's your decision. And you decide it and you start holding this. And a friend comes up and invites you to go to a dance club with them and go dancing. You say, no, I don't like clubs. I'm not going to do it. Life just gave you a chance and you missed it. A chance to practice dancing. Maybe walking home, a sign at a local dance studio catches your attention that you hadn't really noticed before. And you think, well, yeah, I'll get to that. Well, you just blew another chance. When you noticed that sign, you should have jumped at it. You should have gone over to that studio and said, hello, my name is. I want to know more about dancing. Tell me. And if you had, say you'd gone to the club with your friend, or say you'd gone to the dance studio and maybe signed up for classes. You get to the club with your friend and you dance for about 3 minutes and say, I feel really awkward because I have no idea what I'm doing. So I'm just going to have a drink and sit in the corner. Well, then it's not doing you any good to go. See, most of us who've grown up with 800 cable channels and a McDonald's mentality know that all you have to do is flip the switch, talk into the speaker, I'll have a Big Mac, and you're handed what you want. But in my experience, it doesn't actually happen this way. You've been raised in an instant gratification culture that says, here, you want it, you got it. But that doesn't seem to work with things that are real. So the first step is noticing and acting, seeing that sign in the dance studio. But the second one is putting in the time and the effort. Say you sign up for that dance studio and you sign up to go 3 days a week and learn to dance, but you only go 1 day a week. Or when you go, you're tired and grumpy and you don't really pay attention. It's going to take you a lot of years before you get your goal of being a professional dancer. It takes going every single time if you've signed up for it. If you decide you want to be something big and impressive and amazing, you can't sit around and be mopey all day, every day, and then once in a while practice being exceptional. You got to practice it all the time, whether you feel like it or not. In the dance studio, you got to go every time, whether you feel like it or not. And you got to try, and you got to work, and you got to put in the time. And I know that's not appropriate for our modern culture. Modern. Because in this modern world, we're told if you want it, you can have it as soon as you push a button. Type your credit card in online, be delivered to your door. But see, these energies, they've evolved in a world that's been around for hundreds of millions of years. And the energies don't yet work in tune with MTV or McDonald's or Yahoo or Amazon. They work in tune with the way the world has for a long time. And these two are the primary reason that the secret isn't working for most people. Either the chances have come to them and they've been too isolated in their bubble. I've got to get home, I've got to do this, I've got to do that. That they miss the signs being waved in their face. Hey, pay attention, look at this. Or they get the signs, but they don't want to work. And I know that it's probably not appropriate for me to tell you you have to work. Because most of you feel that you should be able to just ask for it and it happens. I promise you that as you do this, you'll get better. And if you can do this kind of thing for 10, 15, 20 years, you'll be good enough that you can just ask for a thing and it'll happen. Bam. You want it, there it is. We do get better. But right now, it's a bit like learning how to walk. Imagine I have a 1-year-old who says, I want to run in the Olympics. And I say, well, all right, you've got to learn how to walk. I'll teach you. And my little 1-year-old child takes 1 or 2 steps and falls down and says, done. Bored, not going to do it anymore. That child isn't going to make it in the Olympics. But see, children don't do that. Children are smarter than we are. Children say, I walked a whole step before I fell down. Yay! Maybe they don't have that many words, but their attitude says that. And when they get up and walk all the way across the room, they're excited about it. And if they fall on their butt, they don't say, well, obviously, I'm worthless, or I'll never be good at this, or everybody else is good, but not me. They say, oh, that happens. Then they get up and walk some more. They don't take the setbacks personally, and they keep going. And this is really probably the second most important piece you can have, is willingness to keep going. Whatever the thing is you want, pay attention, I'm talking to you. Whatever the thing is you want, you have to decide it. Of course, we all know that. You have to decide it and declare it and all the things the secret tells you. But then you got to look for every chance and you got to work. And sometimes you're tired, you don't want to. But those are the best times. Any weightlifter will tell you. You go in and lift weights. While it feels good and it's easy, you walk out, you'll be no stronger. You keep lifting weights until you're tired, and then you push a little bit further. Through that tired, you keep going, you keep lifting. And then that night, you're going to be tired. The next day, you're probably going to be sore. But that is where the increase happens, when you push past the tired and keep going. If any of you are athletes, you know this. You know that it's in the difficult times that we really improve. You know that by continued practice you're better. If any of you are musicians, you probably know this. It's in the difficult times when you don't want to practice, but you sit down and do it anyway. And you don't say, oh, I've got to practice, this sucks. But rather, I'm practicing, I'm going to enjoy it. And you sit down and you practice. You play your flute or your violin or your piano or your drums. And you really put your whole heart and soul into it. It's that kind of attitude that brings the change to you quickly. I'm going to make this happen, and I'm going to keep doing it every day. Now I say that that's the second most important part, because it's exceedingly important. But here's the most important part. Let's say you want to be a professional dancer, and you declare out loud, I want to be a professional dancer, and you write it down in your little book, and you post it on the wall so you see it every day. What's the very first word up there? I. Yes, I. I know, it's so simple that you don't think of it. We think it's all about the want. And the want is what drives you and motivates you and lets you be passionate and excited. But that's only the second word up there. The first word is I. So what? That's easy. Nope, that's the hard part. If you're a little bit sensitive, you already know this, because I'm sure there's been a time when you're sitting someplace and say, I'm sad. And you're going, oh, I'm not sad, they're sad, and I'm picking it up. Ruha has told me a couple times she's gone to the fridge and opened it up to see what is in there and thought, I want tuna. Wait, I don't want tuna. Oh, this is the cat. Yes, the cats will want tuna and she'll pick it up. And see, this I is confusing for sensitive people. But even for those who aren't super sensitive, the I is confusing. Because what if there's a little voice of your dad or your mom in the background saying, you can't be a professional dancer, you've got to get a responsible job, become an engineer or a lawyer or even a secretary, someplace to make a salary because it's a tough world out there and you need a job. Then every time you think about dancing, the voice says, I don't want that. I want to be an attorney. I want to be an engineer. The voice isn't there saying, look, this is just a copy of your mom or dad, and I'm telling you. The voice says, I want. And it sounds just like your own voice talking in your head. And you think, oh, well, I do want to be an attorney because then it's safe and reliable. No, you don't. Look in your guts. Do you feel that? Is there any want in there at all to be an attorney or an engineer or a secretary? And you'll probably find that it's not. That this particular I is a copy you've made of mom or dad or grandpa or school teacher or somebody inside. And the thing is, there's not just one. Everybody who's made a big impression on your life. When you were young and had no idea how to live, you paid the most attention to the people who were loudest or impressed you the most. And in paying attention, you made little copies of them inside. And those little copies will say, I want this. And most of you who've worked with Elfpath know this. There's more than one I inside. And I have told people, perhaps Ruha has told you, that whenever you say I anything, take a moment and see which I you're looking out of. Because there's more than one. This I is the most important part in making this whole secret, the whole manifesting, the whole creating the life you want. The I is the absolute most important part. Because if this piece that's saying, I want to be a professional dancer isn't you at all, it's something you were once told, something you're doing because your daddy wanted it, your mommy wanted it, a school teacher said you're good at it, it's not going to happen. No matter how much time and energy you put into it, it's going to keep failing. Because it's not you. I want. The I's missing. I worked with a young woman who was about to take her MCATs, her medical exams, to become to start her medical program in the United States. And she saw me in a coffee shop where I was talking to someone else. And she walked up and sat down at the next table and just sat there and watched and waited. She waited 30 minutes or something while I talked to this other woman. She had no idea who I was. She just saw me and said, I've got to talk to you. So she waited. And eventually I finished with the person I was talking to and asked her to come over and sit down. I said, all right, tell me about you. And she said, Well, I just finished university and I want to be a doctor. I said, stop right there. She said, I'm not done. I said, stop right there. You don't want to be a doctor. Oh, yes, I do. I've wanted it since I was 13. No, you don't. It's not there. You don't want that. She said, of course I do. It's all I've wanted my whole life. All of my education and all of my grades and all my studies because I want to be a doctor. And I led her in a few minutes into a basic exercise to looking deep inside her guts and seeing if she really wanted it. And her father had told her when she was young that she had to be a doctor. I don't recall if he died or if he left. And all this time, she decided she wanted to be a doctor because that's what her father wanted for her. And she felt some responsibility because he was gone. And in just a few minutes, I showed her it wasn't. Now, I'm sure if she'd worked hard enough over enough years, she probably could have made it into being a doctor, but she'd have been miserable because it wasn't what she wanted. It was what someone else wanted. And so this I, the real you, this is the most important piece. Now, if any one of you comes to me and says, I want this thing, generally speaking, I'll ask you a couple questions. Where are you? And then where do you want to go? And I'll give you a path that will lead you there. It's easy. But see, if it isn't really you who wants it, it's not the I. And if you don't really want it, not passionate and driven to get there, then you lack the want. And if you lack the I or the want, getting from here to here may be very difficult and may be impossible. Now, if what you want is waffles for breakfast, that's easy enough to manage. It's a small thing. You can make that happen. But if you want to change your life, if you want something big, if you want to be somebody different or experience something different, to have a whole new perspective, attitude, approach, you need both those pieces, the I and the want. And so how do you find the I? Well, the simplest answer, for me the simplest, I saw a post online where someone said, people who type PLS instead of please because it's shorter, I just tell them no instead of yes because it's shorter. It was the simplest answer for him. The simplest answer for me is get a black belt in Elfpath. Because then you'll know who the I is and you'll have a very solid idea of what you want. The I and the want will be taken care of. But since for most of you that's 2 or 3 years of work away, and you want to start practicing this now, I'll give you some techniques that are a little harder for me, but will be easier for you. The first is Katon, the true self. Now, a few weeks back, I talked to everybody and introduced this term, Katon, the self, the true self, the deep self. And I encouraged all of you to spend a little time every day, not doing anything, just sitting with your eyes closed and finding the truest sense of self you could. And I'm betting most of you haven't done it, simply because it doesn't make sense or it's strange or it's new. I'm betting 1 or 2 of you have. There is a true, real self deep inside. And so you don't find that by accident. When you're 2 years old, you can find that by accident. You do all the time. Teachers will tell you anybody under 4 knows what they want to do with their life. They're certain. And they're probably right. I heard of an Aboriginal tribe once. I read about them. Where when the mother is 8 months or so pregnant, they sit her down in the middle of the group and the whole tribe comes to witness, and they maybe give her some herbs and they hypnotize her and give the baby permission to talk through the mother. And they say, all right, you're coming into this world. Why are you coming? What are you here for? What is it you're looking for? What do you need? What do you most want to experience in this lifetime? And the whole tribe witnesses. And with the mother's voice, the baby will speak to them and say, here's what I want. And it's a small tribe, right? So they don't go off to office buildings to work. They're together all the time. And so when that child's 2 and 3 and 5 and 10, and that child starts straying in a different direction. No, I want to do this. Whoever they're around will say, I heard, before you were born. What you actually want is this, and so I'm going to guide you back to it. And for these people, it's easy to find Katon, because they got a whole support group from the time they're babies, saying, I know who you really are. I'll help you, find it and stay there. You, on the other hand, and you, all of us, when you're small and you want something, you know something's right, you're certain. If it doesn't happen to be what mom wants, or convenient for dad, or interesting to your babysitter, or on the syllabus of your teachers, they tell you, sit down, shut up, mind your own business. And if you insist, my soul needs this, in whatever words that a child would use, they'll wash your mouth out with soap, or beat you, or ground you, or take away your Xbox, or make you stay after school and write lessons on the board, or something like this. Your life, from the time you're small, drives you away from Katon, from your true self. And this is why it's hard for you. Not because it's hard to find Katon. This is easy. It's right in the middle. It's who you are. It's the simplest thing. But because your life has built up all of these walls around it and all of these defenses and distractions. And so this is why we have to work now, a little more than we should have, to refine this Katon. And so I encourage you again, though it may seem trivial, spend a little time, even if it's only 30 seconds, every day, without fail, with your eyes closed, trying to find the truest sense of self that you can. Just do this every day. And in time you will get better and better until you can just pop into it. It may take 6 months or a year till it's easy. I don't know. It depends on you. But you'll be able to just pop into it and say, this is who I truly am. And then someone says, do you want to go out for a drink? Do you want to go to a club and dance? Most people will focus on the want. You, the first thing will happen is you go, let me focus on the I. Ooh. And then once you've got the I, you can say, what does that I want? Does it want to go to a club? Does it want to stay home and study? Does it want to see relatives? Does it want to take a vacation? That will be easy. But for now, it's going to take a little practice, a little work. Not a lot, just a little bit every day, over and over. Imagine that you live in Texas, or Saudi Arabia, or someplace with lots of sand and lots of oil derricks. And you've got a neighbor who's some fat old Texan with a bunch of guns, or some Saudi Arabian sheik. And they've got all these oil wells pumping oil out of the ground, and you're poor. And you decide, I want to strike oil, so I can start pumping oil out of the ground to get rich. It's a reasonable decision. Everybody else is doing it. Probably oil down there somewhere. Most of us will buy a great big drum of oil and start pouring it out in the ground and say, look, I've got oil. Now, creatively, I call this pouring oil on the ground. And this is what most people do when they think, all right, I want to be someone famous. They put all their time and their effort into, I want to be famous, or I want to be rich. They put all their time and their effort into, I want to be rich. And so deep inside, there's this Katon. Over it, there's all these defenses that life has built. And then on top of that, you're putting, I want to be rich, I want to be famous, I want to be better with people, I want to have a good relationship. You're putting that over top here. You're just pouring oil on top of the ground, which gets you no closer to finding the wonders that are hidden underneath. So, if you're only saying in life, I want this thing, without this deep sense of I, you're pouring oil on the ground. It's necessary to dig through all the layers of soil and find the secrets that are hidden in Katon. And with the secrets that are hidden in Katon, you can make the secret of the secret movie really work. Because here you find the I. And without that I, you could never do the I want. This is the most important piece, the most important truth. Find the I. I'm willing to bet, depending on how many people see this, that 95 to 98%, if I were to sit down, or Roha, or anybody who is reasonably good with this stuff, were to sit down with them and say, what do you want? They'd say, I want, and they'd make a list. It might be a long list, it might be one thing. And 95 to 98% of those people would be wrong. Because they don't know Katon. They don't know the true self. They only know what all the voices inside, all the eyes are saying. Almost everyone will find themselves just pouring oil on the ground instead of digging down deep and finding what's here. So, my recommendations to you, if you want to play with this, making things happen, number one, make it a habit, one you don't break, that every single day, make it part of waking up, or part of brushing your teeth, or part of showering, I don't care, something that you do every day. Spend 30 seconds with your eyes closed, finding the truest and deepest sense of self you can. Find I, way down deep in your who am I. And I'll caution you, a lot of religions say I am is important. Here in the Netherlands there's an entire society called the I Am Society. Some religions say the name of God is I Am, it's so important. A friend told me that when she was a child, her mother taught her whenever she was scared or frightened to say ego sum, which is Latin, because that would, scare away the scary stuff. But see, that's Latin for I am. I am is a phrase that's ubiquitous. It's so common, it shows up everywhere. It's deep in our psyches. And if you say I am, right, you're trying to find this Katon and you say I am, and you imagine this person you want to be, it's likely that one of the other eyes is talking. You can't be sure. So when you do this Katon exercise, what I encourage you to say is to close your eyes and find this truest sense, and instead to ask, who am I? And just spend 30 seconds, 60 seconds, whatever it takes for you. Who am I? And just relax and kind of melt inside and ask this question, who am I? Over and over. Until you start to come to something in there, some sense of self, some sense of what's really you. Who am I? Not I am. So this is my first step. Every day, without fail, practice Katon. Ask who am I? And really ask it. Look as deep as you can. Step 2. If you have any sense of that I, from that Katon, decide what it is you want. Write it down. Preferably write it down in some big letters and post it somewhere so you see it every single day. If you use a computer, put it on your background. I want this. If you want to be a dancer, start watching videos of dancers. Go to YouTube and look around. If you want to be a professional comedian, watch comedians and see what they do. Start looking for it everywhere in your life so that it builds up into your subconscious. Your subconscious is constantly thinking, dancing, cool. All right, dancing. Let's look at dancing. Let's learn something new. Go to Wikipedia and find something new on the history of dancing. Learn a new dance step and try it. When you're getting up to walk from here to the kitchen to get yourself a snack, dance. Don't walk there, kind of dance. Whatever the thing is, practice it in every little thing you do in life. If you want to be more visible, more confident, then when you walk to the kitchen to get a snack, swagger. Be visible and confident. If you want to be more calm and more peaceful, when you walk to the kitchen, stop yourself and say, okay, I'm going to walk very calmly and peacefully. Integrate these things into your life in little steps all the time, so that you're constantly thinking of them, so that your subconscious is thinking of them. Right? Step 1, I. Step 2, figure out what you want. Step 3, find every little reminder you can and fill your life with them. And beyond that, play with the ideas of the secret. Visualize it, imagine it, put lots of emotion behind it. See, once you've got the I and the want, making anything happen involves 2 pieces. Most of you have probably seen or heard of the grounding belts and the sensing bracelets and the different tools I've made. When I shape those, it takes 2 pieces. And it's always the same 2 pieces. It takes enough power to actually shape the world. And then it takes the focus to shape it in the right way. Let's say you're going to visit a friend and you want to ring the doorbell. If you touch the doorbell but don't actually push it hard enough, it doesn't ring. You've got to actually push the button to make it ring. And you stand on the porch for half an hour and think, well, my friend doesn't love me because I'm not answering the door, and you leave, frustrated. Well, you need enough power. And let's say that you're pushing really hard in the brick wall over here somewhere. You push as hard as you want, but nothing's going to happen. Your friend's not going to hear the doorbell ringing. You need to find where the doorbell is. That's focus. You need to push it. That's the power behind it. And so when you're trying to make something in your life, those are the 2 things you need. If you want to make checks come in the mail, you need to be able to really focus on the idea of checks coming in the mail. And you need the power behind it. Now, the Secret movie says, if you close your eyes and imagine it and get excited and happy and enthusiastic, that'll do it. Well, excited and happy and enthusiastic, those are generating energy. Those are providing power. You can also do it with anger and bitterness and frustration. Those are emotions, those are energies, they'll provide power. Now, let's say you decide you want to get thin and healthy. And every time you get up, you look at the message beside your bed, I'm going to be thin and healthy, or I'm thin and healthy, or however you phrase it. And then you go look in the mirror and you see your fat, lazy body. And you get angry. And you get bitter. Oh, God, that's so disgusting. How can anyone stand to look at me? God, I hate myself. It's awful. That's generating lots and lots of power. And it's generating that power, that energy, that anger, that fear, that frustration, and pointing it at being fat and sloppy. Well, what's going to happen is you're going to gain weight. You're going to get sick. You're going to get more out of shape. Because you're generating the energy opposite in the direction you want. In the long run, as far as just a fact, it doesn't matter if you use anger or fear or excitement or joy. They're all energy. You can take any one and point it at something. You will create it. For the sake of what we do, for the sake of your spirit, for the sake of working on the light side and not the dark side, it matters a lot. If you can do this with joy and excitement and enthusiasm, in the long run, it's important. But just for the sake of creating an effect, it doesn't matter. You need a source of power. Emotions will do it. Passion will do it. Intensity, focus, a powerful want, a powerful enough want will do it. And then you need a place to focus it. Which is why you keep programming your subconscious with, in the dancing example, pictures of dancers or videos or, dancing around the house. You're programming your subconscious to be thinking about it all the time, and so it's always focused on it. Then when you provide energy and excitement, it's going to that. Okay, so those 2 pieces are really all it takes. Some sort of power source and then focus of that power. That's it. It's that easy. But to get results, you really need the first 2 pieces, I and want. You've got to have I. If it's this piece inside, this piece of your dad that wants to be a dancer, and you're putting all his energy in, maybe your dad will become a dancer. Or a chemist or a biologist or whatever it is pushing you to be. And you got to have I, and then you got to have want. Because without the want, you don't keep going to dance practice. You don't keep focusing on the thing. You don't keep building the will. You don't put in the daily effort. Got to have the I and the want. Once you've got those, you don't have to have them finished. You don't have to be amazing at them. Just a little bit's enough to get started. Pick a small thing in your life. Work on building the I and the want on that small thing, and then practice. Building up the power, the excitement, the passion, the enthusiasm, the joy, the curiosity, whatever. Building up the power, and then taking and focusing it at what you want. Right? Watch the secret movie. Use their techniques. That's fine. Whatever it takes to build power and focus. But first, at least begin the I and the want. Make sure you have those two. Now, I don't want that to be complicated. I feel it should be pretty simple. The I, the ka-tone, should be pretty simple. What you truly want should be pretty simple. Right? And then the rest of it, it doesn't matter. There are thousands of different methods for manifesting. So, I want that to be simple. I intend for you to actually get that. And I encourage you to practice. Because my words are nice, but they're like the secret movie. You can watch it once, you can listen to it once, and not see a difference in your life. Difference comes through repeated application of small things. You're trying to take down a dam and let this giant river flow. Well, grab a hammer and hit it. It's not going to crack the first time, but you keep hitting it, and eventually you'll make a little dent in it. You keep hitting it, you make a little dent. You keep going, eventually a little bit of water will be trickling through. A little more, keep going, a little more. And pretty soon there's enough water flowing through that it starts helping you. It starts digging out around you. And pretty soon you've got, better be running it out of the way. Because that water's going to break through and flow in this crazy torrent. But it doesn't come by sitting on the side saying, I wish that river were free. I wish it would get past that dam, then people downstream could have water, and oh, this was just made by some industrialist to make money. It doesn't need to be there. I wish. No. You wish, and then you start making small efforts. And it's like this. Find the I, decide what you want, and then start making the small efforts to make it happen. Find the power and focus it into action. Power and focus, power and focus. That's simple. These things make sense?
Yes.
All right, I intend for them to be very simple. So, beyond this, you got to practice. Because the people who are good at something, anything, are people who've practiced. You find someone who's amazing at languages. Wow, you just pick up new languages so fast. You're incredible. You have a natural gift. Well, it's likely they speak half a dozen languages, 10 languages already. And they got there by memorizing grammar and practicing speaking and making a fool of himself by saying the wrong things. I once told a kid to eat these snacks instead of those snacks because they didn't have condoms in them. I had the wrong word in the language. And of course all the teenage boys there laughed at me because I said there are condoms in their snacks. I just picked the wrong word. The people who are amazing with music, you might say, well, you're just naturally gifted. You're so good at it. One of the kids here often says, well, everybody else can do it, but I'm no good. They're naturally gifted. But the truth is, nobody's naturally gifted. I have never seen a newborn infant playing the violin. And even if they could figure it out, they wouldn't do it well. They get there by practicing. So I encourage you to take these ideas I've given you. Ka-tone, the I. Want what you truly want. And then beginning to build the power and the focus. I encourage you to practice. In small ways is fine. You don't have to change your whole life. Small ways, but do them over and over. And as you get good at this, what you find is you don't have to re-find I every time. Once you're good at it, you know who I is. Once you're good at figuring out what you want, you don't have to keep redigging. It doesn't take another 6 months to find it again. And once you're good at focusing, you don't have to spend another 2 years getting good at focusing. You've already got it. Once you get these basic skills down, you can point them at anything. I want this. Boom, there it is. It shows up in your life. But you got to practice. Now there's one more point I want to talk about because I talked to Roha about it this week. Everybody knows Batman. Batman's a cool guy. I mean, everybody at least has some idea who Batman is. Most people have some respect for Batman because he's tough and he's dedicated and he's amazing and, Batman's cool. And so you know who Bruce Wayne is. And you know who Alfred is, his butler. What I want you to understand, is that the person you know as yourself, that is the person you'll find here as Katon, is your Alfred. It's your butler. This person you dig up and get to know so well, this is the butler. Albert Einstein, another person everybody knows, said that you have an intuitive self, a real self. And this is sort of the wise master of the house. And then you have a conscious logical mind. And that conscious logical mind is the servant. And most people, they put the servant in charge. Make the master of the house serve the servant. Make the intuitive self be the servant. And this is something most of you can't apply yet. Some of you can. But I want you to be aware. We started with the heart and we'll finish with the heart. As you bring energy up into here and begin to expand this, you're going to start saying, I, and mean this. Because what's in the heart is really you. And we don't teach this from the beginning in Elfpath, because before all your guts are cleaned out, you can't get enough energy up here. It's like this part of you is still asleep. Imagine we sent a colony off into space to colonize some other planet. And all of the people who are going to raise crops or build buildings or whatever they do are in suspended animation. But the people who keep the ship running, the people who are taking care of everybody in suspended animation, they're up and they're running around. It's a bit like that. When you come into this world, the real you is in suspended animation. It's here in the heart. It's nascent. It's waiting to wake up and become real. But because you're not getting enough energy up here, it's not awake yet. And when you're a child, you can't. When you're a child, you start growing way down at the root and building your energy centers. And so until you're 8 or so, you're not old enough to be running energy up to the heart. It doesn't happen. It's, kind of like meta-puberty. Until a child is old enough, a child doesn't hit puberty, no matter how much they might want to. You don't get to be an adult physically until you go through that. This is the real you, the heart you. This is what you'll find. This is your Bruce Wayne. And if your Bruce Wayne decides to become Batman, someone truly amazing, and go out and reshape the world, ultimately it's going to come from here. And if you've ever read Batman comic books or graphic novels, if you've ever watched the movies, that guy'd be nowhere without his butler. I mean, there are times where the butler saves his life or nurses him back to health. When he's too focused on something to remember to eat, his butler's there saying, here, you have to eat something. The butler is so important. Alfred is far more than just a servant. Alfred is a dear friend who takes care of him. And this is what's in your guts, the dear friend. This is the crew managing the ship until it gets where it's going, and this comes out of suspended animation. This is the real you, the heart. And so we start this talk tonight with, if you want to change the world, start by waking up your heart. And we end the same way, with the hearts. That if you want to find who you truly are, you're going to find that here, not here. That this has to be awake, it has to be healthy, and it has to be strong before it can wake this one up from its sleep. So we focus on here first. But once you've got this in the guts, start looking to the heart. Start finding what the heart wants, who you are in the heart. This is your Bruce Wayne. This is your potential Batman. And this is just the butler. And that's really all I intended to say to you folks tonight. You have a question?
I intend to say thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Question? You, not your kids, okay. Alright, folks. This is all just information. Simple information, because I like simple. If it's not simple, it's not true. But it's just information. And unapplied information is not much good. It's like having a nail that needs to be put in and a hammer over here. As long as the hammer's over here, it's not doing you any good. You got to pick the hammer up and use it. You got to take this information and apply it. So I simply can't encourage you strongly enough. Take these ideas, rewrite them in a way that's simple and clear for you. The I, the wants, the power and the focus, and begin using them over and over in your life. Driving little nails in, over and over. Once you've done it 10,000 times, it'll seem easy. Once you've done it 500 times, you'll at least understand it. The first 20 or 30 times, you'll think, I don't get this. This is stupid. It doesn't make sense. But see, the road to mastering a thing doesn't begin with sitting home and figuring it out in your head and making up complicated explanations and talking about it. It doesn't begin with whining that you're not competent or you're not good enough or everybody else is better. It begins with taking a simple idea and applying it, and then applying it again, and then applying it again, and then applying it again. And if you do this, apply it over and over every day, you're going to find that in a surprisingly short time, you've applied it thousands of times. And it's easy. But until you've done that, it's just an idea. An idea that you don't use is like, a hammer on a shelf. It's like a big pile of money when you're starving to death. Well, grab some of that money and go buy something to eat. These ideas are intensely valuable. But until you take them and apply them, until you spend them in your life, they're just words, just concepts. Use them, practice them. Especially those of you who are shapers. Because you get bored and you want to make things happen, you want to do things. Well, this is something to do. And when you start doing it, you start seeing results. But also the sensors, also the sources. Take these things and apply them. Use them. And if you don't, nothing will happen. And if you do, just practice. It gets easier and easier, and you'll see the results you're looking for. Not right away. Any more than if you decide to be a doctor. You don't go out tomorrow and buy a white coat and call yourself a doctor. You go to school for years, and you study and you work. You want to be an attorney. You don't just buy a fancy suit, hang up a sign, and call yourself an attorney. You go to law school, you learn the rules, you find better attorneys and you study with them. You want to be a mechanic. You don't just buy a garage. You got to get the tools, you got to work on cars, you got to learn. Take these things and begin to practice. And see, I'm not telling you what to choose. You can choose to be anything. You can choose to be a couch potato. Right? I'm going to sit on this sofa and watch television and eat Cheetos. I guarantee that the best couch potatoes have put in thousands of hours practicing. Sitting on that sofa, eating their Cheetos, flipping the channels. They know exactly when their shows are coming on. They know exactly how long the commercials are, so if they have to, run to the toilet, they're okay. They've put the time in. And if that's what you want to be as a couch potato, you can do it. You can practice this, and you can get good at it. But even the couch potatoes have practiced over and over the simple things. Click, click. Hey, it's practice. And they do it over and over. You want to be amazing. Take these ideas and practice. So, beyond this, I'll just be repeating myself. This is most of what I have to tell you. Take these ideas, and if they feel right to you, they should if you're paying attention. If they feel right to you, start practicing. And if you get even tiny successes, share them. How many people have heard someone complain? Ever in their life? Yep. Most of us have heard lots of people complain lots of, oh, this doesn't work, I hate that, I'm no good, I'm not smart enough, I'll never figure this out. How often do you hear someone saying, I had something really good happen. This was amazing, this worked. I mean, how often do you hear this? Much less. Be that person. It's a bit like a child. Maybe the child wants to run in the Olympics someday, but first it's got to take its first steps. That child takes its first steps. Mom and dad go, oh, they took their first steps. Look, we got photos. They call grandma. The kid took one step. Big deal. No, they don't say that. They celebrate the little bitty victories. And this celebration makes it easier to practice more and provides more power, which you can then apply towards what you want. And so it gives you the pieces you need. And it helps others. Other people are trying these things who may not have found their successes yet. They can say, well, it's working for her. It's working for him. And so it will help them. So when you get the small successes, share them. And if you notice other people having successes, if you want to be a professional dancer, tell everybody you know. Well, everybody you trust. The ones who will, make fun of you and make it harder. And then, say you've been going to dance class and practicing. One of them may come to you and say, hey, you look a lot more graceful than you used to. Is that because of your dance classes? And they'll give you the feedback. So when you don't remember to do it for yourself, others can do it for you. Beyond that, practice. Take these simple ideas. Apply them. Share your successes. Let us know how it's going. And what you're going to find is that in a year, 2 years of doing this, you'll have the whole secret thing down. And people say, oh yeah, I saw that secret movie. It's stupid. It didn't work. I asked for this and it never happened. And you'll say, yeah, it works for me. Yeah, show me. Okay, I'm going to make this happen. The next day it happens. How did you do that? Maybe you'll explain it. Maybe you'll just show them this. It will get easier and easier if you apply yourself. And the thing is, it's simple. It really is simple. The ideas are simple. The efforts are simple. It's not lots of work. It's not super tiring. So I encourage you to try it. I encourage you to play with it. Keep a sense of fun. When you get it right, celebrate. And keep going. Beyond that, just keep going. That's all. Have fun with it.
Someone wants chocolate milk.
It's not me.
Eat it.